Hey, hi and welcome back. I hope that you are enjoying this training. So in previous video, we completed the pre-ordering procedure and we verified whether the footprints for all the components are proper or not. Okay. And now we are all set to order the PCB from the PCB manufacturer's website. Okay. So in this video, I'm going to take you to the PCB manufacturer's website, and from there, I'm going to show you how to order the PCB for your project or product. Okay, so now let's start with this video. So this is basically the website, PCB manufacturer's website, from where I'm ordering the PCBs for almost 8 years now. So there are actually a lot of PCB manufacturers in India, and you can directly search on Google the PCB manufacturers in India, and based on your location you can actually order the PCB from the respective manufacturer. Okay, so PCB Power Market is basically one such manufacturer, and it's basically one of the biggest PCB manufacturer in India. And as I told you, I have been ordering the PCB from this particular website for almost 8 years now. It's because of the quality they provide. So the quality is really good. So you can order the PCB for your project and products from this particular website. Okay. Then these are basically the different services which this particular manufacturer provide, like layout, PCB layout, then PCB fabrication. Then again, if you see in PCB fabrication, there are actually two different types of PCB. The first one is rigid, and then the second one is flex PCB. Okay, so the rigid PCB is basically the PCB that we are using in our design. The PCBs which can't be bent, those PCBs are basically, rigid PCB, and the PCBs which are flexible, those are called as flexible PCB. Okay, and then the another service is PCB assembly. So with the help of this service, we can actually assemble our PCB. We can place the components on our PCB by using the pick and place machine. So that's the PCB assembly service. Then the next service is PCB stencil. So whenever we want to solder the PCB with the help of solder paste, actually at that time we need a stencil. Okay, and stencil actually act as a guide, and solder paste will be it will be pasted or it will be printed at only those locations where we have to solder the component. Okay, so with the help of stencil we can actually print the solder paste on the PCB, and later we can solder the component on the PCB. So that's basically PCB stencil service. Then the next one is component sourcing. So for example, if you want to order the components or if you want to source the components for your product or project, then again directly you can reach to this particular website or manufacturer, and they will order or source the components for you. Now in our case, as we are dealing with the PCB fabrication, so we are going to select this particular service, and at this moment let's not enter all this requirement here. First of all, let's go to the instant code. So it's going to take us to the main website, and here you can see, from here you can select the different services. So as we are dealing with the PCB fabrication and PCB assembly, so we are not dealing with the assembly, so here that's why this no is selected here. And on this web page we have to actually input all our requirement, all the information related to the PCB, and I will walk you through all the different options which are present on this particular page, and I will show you how to order the PCB. Okay, and the information that you have to enter that you will enter on this particular web page. If you go to some other PCB manufacturer, then on their website also you have to enter all this information. Okay, so first of all, here we have to give the name of the PCB. So let's give the name of the PCB as customized Arduino PCB. Okay, so we have exceeded the number of characters, so let's enter the custom Arduino PCB. So we are done with the name of the PCB, and after that we don't want the assembly service. So already by default this particular option is selected, and then the next option is dispatch unit. So here you have to select in what way you want to receive the PCB, whether you want to receive it in the form of single board or whether you want to receive it in the form of panel. So first of all, I will show you how exactly the panel look like. So this is how basically the panel look like, and on this panel you can see there are actually multiple PCBs are there on the same panel. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So on this panel there are actually 4 PCBs, and based on your application's requirement or based on the dimension of your final PCB, you can actually take the decision how many PCBs you want in the single panel. Okay, so panel have its own advantage. For example, during the assembly process, if you have the PCBs in the form of panel, then it's actually going to reduce the time of assembly of the PCB, okay, because the machine is actually going to assemble the 4 or multiple PCB at a time. So that's basically one advantage of having the panelized PCB. But in our case, we are just going to order the PCB in the single quantity. So let's select this option, which is single board, okay. And after single board means you are going to receive the PCB separately, okay. For example, if you order 5 quantity, then there will be 5 single pieces of the PCB. Then here we have to enter the dimension. So let's enter the dimension as you already know the dimension of our PCB. It's basically 80 cross 50 millimeter. So let me enter that dimension here. So based on this dimension, you know, the price of the PCB will be calculated. So you will see that the price will actually change as per the inputs that you will give on this particular web page, okay. So quantity, we just I will just order 5 quantity. I will give you one suggestion here. Whenever you order the PCB, at least order 2 quantities, so that during the assembly, or you know, during the testing, or while dealing with the hardware or product, it may happen that you may damage the PCB, okay. So in that case, you will have to, you know, wait till the time you receive the another lot, okay, or the newly ordered PCB, okay. So it's actually going to take the time. So most of the time I actually order the 5 quantity, but if you have a strict budget, then definitely you can go for at least 2 quantity you order, I will suggest, okay. So let's order the 5 quantity, and then here you can see you have to select the material. So again, we have already discussed that FR4 is going to be the default material, you know, dielectric material whenever you will go to any PCB manufacturer's website. In the same way, on this website, if you see, FR4 is basically the default material. And based on your application's requirement, you have to, you know, you can actually select the different dielectric material. For example, for RF application, not every time, even for RF application, we go for FR4 material, but there may be some kind of application where you may need some different dielectric material, okay. For example, for sometimes for medical application, we use some different dielectric material. Then for very high speed application, we may use some different dielectric material. So based on your application's requirement, you can actually select the appropriate dielectric material here. And I will tell you, most of the time you will have to go for this FR4 only, okay. And in our case, as we are dealing with the 2-layer PCB, so you can see here, this particular manufacturer provides the service up to 24 layers, okay. But we are just dealing with 2 layers, so let's select 2 here. And then here you can see, from here you can actually select the thickness for the board. So 2-layer PCBs are actually available in these different thickness. And 1.6 mm, as we have already discussed, this particular thickness is going to be the default thickness in most of the manufacturer's website, okay. So if you're ordering the PCB even from the local manufacturer, he's going to provide you with the PCB with the thickness of 1.6 millimeter, okay. So let's select this default option, and then surface finish. So again, there are actually different surface finish. The first one is hull, SNPB. SN actually stands for tin, and PB actually stands for lead. So whether you want this particular surface finish, whether you want tin immersion, means only tin coating will be there on the PCB. Then whether you want gold plated PCB, or whether you want lead free PCB. So again, based on your application, you can select the appropriate surface finish. In our case, we are going to select this default option, which is hull SNPB, and you can also go for immersion tin, and after that again you can go for the gold. So again, depending on your application, you have to select the suitable surface finish. Gold surface finish have its own advantage. For example, gold have the really good conductivity. Then if you go for a gold surface finish, then rusting of your PCB will not happen quickly. So likewise, there are actually multiple advantages of using the gold plated PCB. I have some PCB, so let me show you. So this is basically the PCB in our case, okay. And this PCB is actually coated with hull SNPB, okay. Tin and lead coating is there on top of this particular PCB, okay. And as I told you, this is going to be mostly it's going to be the default option in most of the PCB manufacturers website. And this is actually the gold plated PCB. Recently I visited this particular manufacturers, you know, facility, PCB Power Market in Ahmedabad. So here the purpose is to show you how exactly a gold plated PCB look like, okay. So that's basically the gold plated PCB, and I hope that you got the difference. So let's select the default option here, hull SNPB, and then temperature gradient. So again, depending on the application in which you are using your product, based on that application you have to actually go for the different gradients. So for automotive application you will have to go for some higher gradient, for example higher than 170 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees Celsius. So it actually depends on application to application. We are just going to use, or we are just going to select this default option, which is standard temperature gradient, which is 130 to 140 degrees Celsius. Okay, so if you operate your PCB in this particular temperature range, then there will be no problem with your PCB. Okay, so that's basically the meaning of temperature gradient. Then now let's go to the technology, and after that finish copper thickness. So we have already discussed this particular point. I told you that most of the PCB manufacturers are actually going to provide the copper thickness as 35 micron. So on this website you can see 35 micron is there, 60 micron is there, 90 micron is there. And I have already told you, based on the application, if you are dealing with the high current application, power electronics kind of application, then you will have to go for higher thickness of copper. In our case 35 micron is okay, so we will select the default option here. Then the next option is solder mask top and solder mask bottom. So from here you can actually select the color of your solder mask. Green is going to be the default option in every PCB manufacturer's website, because this is basically the cheapest option. If I select some other option, for example red, you will see that there will be increase in the price. So most of the people actually use green solder mask, and people are using green solder mask for a long time, for multiple decades. Okay, that's the reason most of the PCB manufacturer actually provide the default solder mask option as green. Even if you see, the theme of this particular website is actually green color. Okay, because of PCB only. So we are going to keep the default option as green in both the cases, top and bottom. Then top ligand, we have already discussed what is ligand. Ligand actually stands for silkscreen. So from here you can actually take the decision what will be the color of your ligand. So default is going to be white. If you don't want the silkscreen on your PCB, then you can select no ligand. Okay, I have never selected this option, black color, but let's select the default option, which is white. Okay, then peel off. So this is actually something new. Okay, so I will explain you what is peel off. So for that, first of all, let me show you the image. So this is how basically the peel off look like. Now, as the name indicates, peel off. So it's basically a kind of sticker, and you can actually remove this sticker. When you will receive the PCB, this particular sticker will be already there on top of the PCB. Okay, so the purpose of this sticker or this peel off is actually protect the contacts which are there inside or below this peel off. For example, we discussed that there will be surface finish of hull or hull SNPB, or it can be also gold plated surface finish. So if you don't want the gold plating or hull SNPB surface finish in this particular area, then you can tell PCB manufacturer to apply the peel off in that particular location. So I will tell you one example. So in this example, if you see, there are actually carbon contacts. Okay, so this is basically a PCB for a calculator. Okay, so here you can see there are actually carbon contacts, and at this place there will be a push buttons. Okay, so if you have seen the calculator PCB, you will see these kind of carbon contacts. Okay, and on top of these carbon contacts there will be push button. So 1 2 3 4 digits are there in calculator. So when you press the digit, the rubber which is there on top of this carbon contact will be pressed, and it's going to make the short circuit here. Okay, and then the system is actually going to read it as logic 1 or logic 0. So in such kind of application, you don't want any kind of plating on top of these carbon contacts. So here you can actually connect the peel off. Okay, so I hope that you got the purpose of peel off. So you have to tell the PCB manufacturer at what location, you have to highlight that particular location in your PCB, and you have to tell the special instruction to the PCB manufacturer that I don't want any kind of plating in this particular region, and you have to use the peel off in this particular region. Okay, so let me go back to the website now. So in our case, we don't have the peel off, so we are going to select this option, which is no. After that, the next option is countersunk. So again, let me explain this particular point. So you can see there are actually two types of countersunk. The first one is PTH and NPTH. We have already discussed what is PTH. PTH actually stands for path through hole. Via is basically an example of PTH. Okay, And mounting hole is actually an example of NPTH. So let me show you how exactly the countersunk look like. Now in this image you can see here, you just observe this hole, okay? So there is actually no countersunk around this hole. So here in this case there is actually countersunk. So when you have the countersunk on your PCB, you know, the head of the screw will be properly fitted on the PCB, okay? And it will not, it will not come above the PCB. So that's basically the main purpose of countersunk. Now this is actually a PTH countersunk, and if you have the same shape in this case and if there is no plating, then it will be NPTH countersunk, okay? So I hope that this is clear. So this is actually done for, you know, to mount the head of the screw properly, or after tightening the screw on the PCB, in order to get the flat finish on the PCB, we actually use the countersunk, okay? So I hope that's it's clear now. So we don't have this kind of requirement, so I'm just going to click on no. And after that, the next option is impedance control. So again, we don't have this requirement, so I'm just going to select the default option. Impedance control means in PCB there will be some tracks on which you have to maintain the same impedance. Generally in case of antenna, when we design the antenna for GSM or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, so in that case we actually select this particular option because we want the strict impedance on those particular tracks, okay? But in our case we don't have any impedance control track, so we're just going to select this option. And then the next option is wire fill. So in our case we don't have to fill the wire, so we are just going to select no here. You know, wires are basically hollow. I will show you. Now if you observe our PCB, you can see the wires are actually hollow, okay? And they are going to make the contact from top layer to bottom layer, or it's going to connect two layers. Now if you want to increase the conductivity of the wire, if you want to pass more current through the wire, then what we do, we actually fill the wire with the conducting material, okay? So it's going to allow the wire to pass more current through the, you know, that particular hole. So that's basically the purpose of the wire. And again, a lot of people fill the wire with the help of conducting material. Some people fill the wire with the help of non-conducting material, okay? So based on the application you are dealing with, you can actually fill the wire, but in our case we don't have the high current requirement, so we are just going to select no there. So we are done with this option. Now let's go to the additional option and let's see. So you can see here the first one is carbon contact. We have already discussed how exactly the carbon contacts look like. I will show you once again. So you already know this is how basically the carbon contacts look like, and we don't have any kind of carbon contact in our PCB, so we are just going to select no there. After that, the next option is manufacturer's logo. So if you want manufacturer's logo on your PCB, then you can select yes here. In our case, we don't want, so we are just going to keep the default option, which is no. Then serialization of PCB. For example, if you are ordering 1000 quantity of PCB, then this particular manufacturer is going to print the number on each and every PCB, okay? So this is actually very helpful, you know, when you do the production of very high quantity. Number is going to give you the idea, or it's going to be a lot helpful to you during the assembly process, okay? Because while doing the assembly process, it might happen that you may misplace the PCB. So quickly you will get to know what number PCB is actually missing. So you can use this particular option, but in our case, let's not select this one and let's select the no option. And round edge plating. So I will show you how exactly the round edge plating look like. So you can see here, this is how basically the round edge plating look like, and you can this kind of plating is done, you know, when we deal with the very high quality PCB, when we are dealing with the high RF application, and when we are dealing with the also microwave application. At that time we actually do this kind of plating. So you can see on the edges of this PCB there is actually a gold plating. So you can also choose a surface finish as hull SNPB here. So this is how basically the round edge plating look like, but in our case we don't have this requirement, so let's select no there. After that, the next option is beveling. So again, I will put the video and from there you will get the clarity how exactly the beveling look like, and what's basically the difference between the normal PCB and beveled PCB, okay? So beveling is actually going to make the PCB little bit smoother on the edges. So we will select no here, then UL sign, let's say select no here. Whether we want data code, so you can select yes if you want. Then data approval, so if you select this yes, Then once you upload the PCB on this particular website, they are going to ask for the approval before they send the PCB to the production house. Okay, so that's basically that option. And then ET symbol, so whether you want tested OK symbol on your PCB or not. So for that, this is basically that option. And then here, from here, you can actually select the number of working days, in how many days you want to receive the PCB. So if you select 3 days, then you will receive in 5 to 6 days. If you select this option, 5 working days, then you will get the PCB in around 7 days. Okay, so likewise, based on your requirement, based on your budget, you can actually select the number of days. So I generally select this option, which is 7 working days. So with that, you get the price as 2537. If I go for let's say 5 working days, you can see the price is going to be almost double, and 3 working days. So likewise, the price is going to shoot up. So let's select 7 working days, and from here you have to upload the PCB. Then you have to navigate to the location where your Gerber data is stored. So what you have to do, you have to zip these 2 files. So first of all, you have to create the zip file. In our case, we have not created the zip file. You don't need to provide this assembly file folder. You just have to provide the Gerber data and drill file. So you have to create a zip here. So you have to select multiple files and you create the zip. And once the zip is selected like this, you have to click on open. And then that particular zip file will be uploaded here. And later you have to click on add cart, and then you have to do the payment. Okay. So that's basically the procedure to order the PCB, and this procedure you have to follow in every PCB manufacturer's website. Okay. Alright, so that's what I wanted to tell in this video. I hope that every single thing that we discussed in this video is now clear to you, and I'm sure you are now much comfortable with the PCB ordering process. Okay. And this particular PCB manufacturer actually provides, the feature to order the PCB online, but it might happen the PCB manufacturer with whom you will deal, in that case you will have to write all this information in the Word file, and you will have to send that information to that particular PCB manufacturer. So that's basically the advantage of ordering the PCB from this particular website. Okay. So I hope that next time whenever you will design your hardware, you will manufacture your PCB, and I will be more than happy to see what you create with this knowledge. Okay. Alright, so that's what I wanted to tell in this video. Now I will see you in the next video.